All right, welcome to this webinar on today's February 3rd. And today's topic is in our VIP influential webinar series, Customer Maker, that creating irresistible sales conversations that serve people. My name is Sunil Bhaskaran. My business partner, Bill Belieu, is probably online somehow, getting online here. We had a little technical snafu in the beginning, but I think we're all fixed and ready to go. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this information with you. And let's get going here. All right. So uh, Before we start, though, a couple of important things, and I can't help but really keep emphasizing this for a lot of you. Uh, you know, uh, Many of us complain about distractions and being able to focus. And what I'm going to invite you to do for the next hour and 15 or so is to turn off everything that is operating in the background so you can focus on this webinar. The hardest thing to do and the most expensive thing to do in terms of brain bandwidth or your ability to focus is trying to focus on several things at the same time. The quality of your attention goes down, your ability to absorb information that could be critical for you also goes down. So my invitation really is to turn off everything else, including your Skype, email, iTunes, or anything else. You might want to silence your phone, close the door, and give yourself the gift of time to discover the secrets today that could really help you fulfill on your dreams and goals. So it's an invitation for you to shut up everything and just focus on the webinar today. I'm going to pose a couple of questions here for you. Some of these may be pertinent, some of these may not be. The first question is, why are people taking so long to decide to buy from me? You may be asking that question for yourself. You may be tired of going through ups and downs of success in your marketing and looking for something a little bit more sustainable for yourself. You're in the right place today is if you're posing this question, is it difficult or challenging to sell to your current customers? Are you disenchanted with the results you're currently having in your sales and conversions to customers? Have you been in business for a while, but the business marketing and sales is just not quite where it could be or where it should be according to your standards? Are you happy with your profits and your results that you're experiencing thus far? Are you getting burnt out and not excited about the systems of marketing you have currently? Some of you have written to me prior to this webinar a day or so before, and have said some of you don't even have systems and you're looking to create some. Are you paying too much to acquire customers? Is it taking too much time, which also equates to money per customer that you acquire? Are you spending too much money on Facebook ads, etc.? What has stopped you so far in your sales process? Another question for you is, do you want this year to be better than last year or more of the same? And are you going to focus on what are the things in life that really matter to you in the next year? It could be time with the family, it could be time for yourself, it could be time to expand with creative ideas in the business. What are the things that really matter to you that you're not spending time on? And you're in the right place today if you want to create a sustainable and proven business that more than validates your services, products, leaderships, and abilities. You're in the right place today if you're spending too much time spinning your wheels in your marketing and business and seriously wish to make a change in a positive direction towards having more time for yourself while really spinning wheels in a business that will equate to money and more satisfaction for you. And if you wish to sell more, you're certainly in the right place today. You're sick and tired of being overwhelmed. These are some of the things I know some of you have been emailing me and more or less consistent every week. But if you're sick and tired of being overwhelmed and wish to have more focus and direction, you're certainly in the right place today. And if you're launching a business and you want to avoid the unnecessary mistakes, especially when it comes to selling and making presentations, I know some of you are creating startups or have new businesses that you're just launching. There are avoidable mistakes that you can avoid. Those are the known mistakes that most people make. You certainly want to avoid those because that can really suck up a lot of time for yourself. And if you're certainly in the right place if you want to create an engaged and inspired audience who buys. Not everybody who comes to you is necessarily going to want to buy. But could you transform them over time into someone who's engaged with you? Yeah, you could. It's possible. It's possible to do it with the right system and the right planning, the right understanding of what makes human beings tick. In the right place if you want more satisfying results and a lifestyle that reflects that. But the reality is there are really three real fears when it comes to sales. There are other fears, but certainly when it comes to sales, there are three real fears. The first one is it's a statement I hear quite a bit. Is I will fail to sell because I'm not good at it. Not good at sales, or I hate sales, or I'm just detest doing it. It's a bad word in my family. It's been a bad word in my family for generations. I'm not even allowed to utter it at the dinner table. That word sales. Um, my customers, the other fear is my customers will hate my sales strategies and tactics and go away. The third fear I hear a lot from salespeople or people in business is I'll burn myself out, and I don't want to do that. Some of you have been in business for a while. You may be doing pretty well, but it's burning yourself out. There could be quite a number of reasons for it. One reason is you may not have a really good system of guiding people through various stages to becoming clients and paying clients. So the question for you is, what about you? What are the things that you're dealing with? Where would you like to see results occur? What would you like to learn that would have you get there? There are four things we're going to cover today on this call. The first is two things that you must do and two things you should avoid in your sales conversation that will put more money and less stress in your pocket. The second is why introverts and extroverts alike have advantages that they can capitalize on. If you're an introvert, like me, by the way, a lot of people are surprised to hear that. Some of you aren't, because you understand introversion a little bit more. Sometimes introverts can be the best salespeople. It doesn't mean if you're an extrovert, you're excluded from that crowd. There are common factors that you can exploit for both introverts and extroverts alike to capitalize on. The third thing we're going to learn today is a step-by-step process that you can customize to create great sales in your own kind of sales. You have to customize it to yourself, but these are some of the basic step-by-step processes that I've done that have led to success, myself and other clients that I've worked with. Fourth thing is how to get past your fears and other obstacles and stay on track in your sales. And fifth is a plan to build your sales elegantly and sensibly to the next level. Getting past your fears and other obstacles, we'll cover this in the system that I'm going to reveal to you. But what I found is once you have a system in place that works for you, that's customized to your own style, then a lot of those fears and obstacles start going away. It doesn't mean you won't have any. It just means that you have more facility with them, or you have a system to handle it, so you don't have to get in your head and be distracted from your customer. It's not a very good place to be in when you're distracted from your customer and not really paying attention to what they really need. There's a free gift at the end of the webinar, so I encourage you to stay at the end so that you can experience that gift. And it's going to be a very relevant gift. Like a lot of other webinars, I like to give something that's really relevant to you, and it's going to tie everything up very nicely, so I encourage you to stay right to the end. A couple of things I want to share with you, and I'm sharing these breakthroughs that Bill and I have experienced in our business, in our common business. And I'm sharing this to you not to toot our horns. I'm not interested in that, to be honest with you. I'm sharing this to do two things. A, of course, we want to build our credibility, but secondly, I want to demonstrate very clearly that these principles that I share with you in all these webinars really do work. And those of you who've been following along with me every week will notice that this list is actually growing bigger. And these are actually very recent breakthroughs that we've had, or results that we produced. We both have Bill and I have a combined meetup, several groups, but the meetup size is now 18,530. Some of you have been here in last week will notice that it went up. Our Rolodex is now more than 26,000. I've actually stopped counting on it because it keeps increasing almost every week. Our Twitter group is probably way more than 55,000 right now. The last launch, we had a full group of clients in about 2 weeks. We made about $100,000. Bill's website, his forum gets about 90 million hits. Bill just actually had a company contract for potentially about 20K per month. We get joint venture invitations all the time. There's a French tech group that just approached us last week, very interested in doing business with us. All this came from the kind of work that we do in our marketing and sales again. Just want to emphasize the relevance of sharing all of this. We're doing a current launch and already filling up with clients. Our last batch of students that we had are already, some of them, at least three of them are doubling traffic about every month right now. That means traffic to their website. And the numbers are growing, including time on the site. In other words, people who are coming to the site are actually spending more time on the site. It's one thing to get people coming to your site, but to actually stay and look at stuff, it's a whole other ball game. New client 2 weeks ago had a waiting list for a meetup event. I just talked to her last week, and she had a second meetup that's already filling up, and we're looking to even have a greater breakthrough there. This is very difficult to do on Meetup, some of you may realize, but especially in her target niche, but we're doing pretty well there, again, because of the principles I'm going to share with you. One new client has more than made her money back in our coaching program. And, the list goes on and on. There's a client who has a website, it's a student actually in our program, made a connection with a billionaire who's actually looking to fund him as a possibility in his project. So again, these things, the principles I'm going to share with you really do work. And that's really the main point I want to share with you in this slide. Those of you who are on the phone, I'll do my best to describe the slides because I know you don't have the slide right in front of you. So just bear with me. Now, it wasn't all that great. If you're on the computer, you'll probably see a photograph of me. It's taken about 1991. I had a thick mustache and a thick frown that was hidden by the hair that I had covering my frown. But selling at that time was certainly not my strength. So those of you who are not that great at selling right now, take heart. It can be done. I did not have the sales marketing mindset at that time, nor the practices to really get me to success. And it's really a mindset combined with practices. Now, mindset, I don't mean some of the stuff that you hear out there, being more confident or trying to do certain techniques like tapping your mind or, hypnosis necessarily. I'm not saying those don't work, are not necessary. I'm just saying there are other more grounded practices that you can do to get you to success. And I had no idea about all that. The formula for sales was either good luck, hard work, or occasional smart thinking. There was no system initially to really go after clients. And the truth is, a lot of it was hard work. It was just a lot of door knocking, literally walking from office to office, asking for business in my lunchtime. And it sometimes was quite a lot of work with very little results, as you can imagine. One of the first breakthroughs I did was hiring my first mentor or coach. He's a very conservative businessman, but he taught me a lot about business. I'm really grateful to have met him, especially at a time when there's no such thing as a business coach. I never heard of it. He didn't even call himself a business coach. He just called himself a business mentor. And one of the first things he taught me was putting attention on where it should be put on the customers. Now, this is like a duh, like, of course, right? It would make sense. But you got to understand, for a lot of people who say that they understand this, when I observe them in their sales presentations or when they design their online marketing, the attention seems to be on something else. It's not necessarily even on them, because they're actually very caring people, but it's really that they put more attention on the process or the services or what they provide rather than what the customer can get. And that's an important distinction. If you even get that out of this session today, that would be tremendous. And this is like it's one of those blind spots that you think you know already, but you really don't know it. And I include myself in that. Because sometimes I think, I already know what this person wants. But then, suddenly I hear more things and I go, wow, I had no clue. And so you want to really have the word duh, imprinted in your mind. Maybe I need to go through an duh, not an aha, but an duh kind of insight around my customers. The other breakthrough that I got with my coach was how to sell without convincing, because I was trying to convince a lot of people of two things. One is that the services, which was mostly software design and writing software and selling them code, was going to work, but also that I had the competency to do the job. And what went out the door was being related to people, finding out what they really needed, and seeing if there was a match. And so again, another big aha, ada, which uh, even the best of us will go through from time to time, even with experience. Um, the other breakthrough was the art and science of asking the right questions. My business mentor at that time was very good and very adept at asking the right questions and knowing when to pause and listen and when to pose questions and when to talk. And this is it's an art and a science. Um, and it very well should be an art and a science because some things we really don't know. We have to discover, and this is the art part of it. You have to discover it while you're actually talking to people, engaging with them, being willing to say that, I really don't know. I don't have a real process for this, but I'm willing to find out what the process could look like individually with each customer. As if you're doing that kind of selling. So a couple of again, I'm sharing these breakthroughs when I first started coaching. Within a couple of years, I actually made quite a lot of money, had enough to actually take about a year and a half off, travel the world, and do a lot of things I wanted to do. But I want to share these lessons, and I want to thank a lot of people for giving me good feedback on this because these lessons are still very valuable the more you listen to them. The first lesson was that you really want to focus on strategy first. If you want to sell right, you got to make sure you got the right target market and the right passion for it. If you're not really passionate about the people you're going after and you're not focused in your target marketing, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, doesn't mean you're not going to have a horrible business necessarily, but mostly you will. For most people, you probably will have a harder time if you don't have a focused target market and you're not really that passionate about your market. You also got to understand what the pain points are in your market. If you don't understand the market as a whole, not just individual clients, but as a market as a whole, what are the right pain points? How do you get to those pain points? Do you have a system to make sure you're apprised and kept informed of your pain points? You want to make sure that you understand what those are in your target markets. You got to make sure you got the right target markets. And what I mean by this is, again, if you're passionate about it, but also that you have access to it and it doesn't cost you too much to acquire customers, you have a system that works. That's what makes, a really good business. Having the right offers. This is very key. And we covered this in one of our previous webinars. But, designing the offers for the target market that makes sense given their problems and challenges and pain points. And then having the right systems and sales funnels that reflect those right offers. So we're going to talk a little bit today about, the sales funnels and the systems really, which includes your online and offline conversations, so to speak. Your online conversations are not necessarily you talking, but it's what's expressed in your copy, your marketing copy, the wording that goes on your sites, etc. The other lesson from way back then was to plan. And it's okay to have a rough plan. A lot of you are kind of like embroiled in getting the perfect plan together. But what I say is start with a rough plan. A rough plan could be as simple as what you're going to do in the next 3 months for each month, and just have like 4 objectives maximum for each month. And if you just start with that, you've got a good starting plan. Now, there's way more to do after that. And with my clients, we work on our plans on almost a daily basis, so we make sure that we're on track. The more you refine your plans, the more you pay attention to them. Just like a good garden and a good gardener pays attention to the garden a little bit every day. You don't have to like water it, overwater it. You don't have to underwater it. If you just do the right amount of attention a little bit every day, then you have a beautiful going garden. And the same thing applies to your business. So you've got to have a rough plan, but your plan gets more and more perfect as you refine it over time. Third thing is focus. Learning how to, and focus really is a practice. And as you learn to focus over time, what tends to happen is stress levels go down. And when stress levels go down, guess what? You can sell a lot better because you're just not as stressed out. So focus, when you practice it on a daily basis, tends to reduce stress. And it's a very simple reason for that, because the art and science of focus includes selecting what you're going to focus on a day-to-day basis. You want to learn to mitigate your risk versus return on investment. And this comes to also in selecting your clients. See, what kind of markets do you want to focus on that are going to give you the best return on investment? And see, the biggest risk could be, if you don't do the marketing analysis, you might be missing out on some good markets that could be a lot easier to sell to and bring you a lot more joy and ease in your business. The fifth breakthrough came with consistent application. And, as you learn some of the tools today, what you're going to, I hope you understand and really internalize this, is that you'll have to practice this. One of my new clients 2 days ago said, he really discovered the art of practice. And he never thought of it before because he was always trying to get ahead of his to-do list every day. And when he gave that up and he took on just practicing, focusing on 3 things a day, and he said, he used to enjoy practicing on the piano. And he said, when he thought of focus as practice on a consistent basis, everything changed for him. It became more joyful. He stopped looking at why he was failing and looked at how he was succeeding every day and getting better. And you see, that's really the key. If you're stressed out and are feeling a little stuck in your sales, your marketing, that's the place to look for. Is create a slightly longer time frame for you to improve on, and you probably set more realistic expectations and probably hit them a lot better. Just like a professional athlete, they don't expect to have tremendous breakthroughs every single day. I mean, it's possible, but highly unlikely. Breakthroughs come with consistent application every day, practicing a little bit here and there. And then you can make those bank shots and, score goals from 50, 100 yards out, right? But that takes practice. So you got to practice, and the same thing with sales and business. Got to learn how to practice it. You're not going to become overnight sensations. Not everybody is. Statistically almost impossible with the kind of technology we have today. So it really comes with consistent application. I hope that's a kind of a relief for some of you. Some of you I know are really pushing yourself too hard. It's just crazy to do that. A little bit of sharing here. I got a taste of the great lifestyle. And the reason I'm sharing this is, in 1996, took that year and a half off, and it was really a reward for about a year of really hard work. I said for 1 year in 95, I'm going to work really hard, build my business, learn everything I can. And I did that, along with having a full-time consulting job and other things that took up a lot of my time. The one thing I didn't have was a girlfriend at that time. And I think if I had a girlfriend, I think the whole thing would have collapsed. But, the main point here is you want to look at the long term in terms of long-term joy and being willing to put in the work and the investment of time and money in the short term. You may have to invest some money and time into your business in order to really create some kind of breakthrough in the longer term. All right. Again, a few testimonials here. Again, I'm sharing all of this to really give you a sense of the lessons learned from my clients and what they learned as well. So Archana Sudame, she came to me quite a number of years ago. And the main thing is really you want to have someone who can help you decipher or wade through the complexities of business, yourself, your family, your personal life, and getting a plan that really works customized to you. If you try to take off-the-shelf plans that you read about in books, it's all very good to start with, but you really got to customize to each person, to you, your style, how you want to do, how your clients are, etc. And one of the great things about Archana, she never spent I don't think she ever spent anything on any kind of advertising, especially expensive advertising. We didn't have to do that. And what she did was just work on really doing the strategic thinking. I helped her with dialogue. We talked about every 2 weeks or so. And that really made a huge difference in helping her move forward and craft the kind of marketing strategy that would make sense to her. So really, it was the lesson to be learned was planning and creating the right packages for the right markets. You got to really do your marketing work up front before you sell, or at least in parallel. You don't want to stop selling, but you certainly want to think about your market ongoingly. Eric Hess, he and his wife, and actually 2 other of their partners came to me originally. Long story short, they created a 150% increase in size. The main lesson for them was they had a very decent business before I worked with them, but their business really exploded in a good way once they realized that their vision and their goals were not going in the same direction. They had a very spiritual vision, but their goals were more, I should say, more business oriented. When they got clear that their vision and goals needed to be aligned, the whole thing took off. People were way more engaged in their business, and it was just easier to sell. It was joyful selling. And I remember I used to watch them sell to the clients who came into their office, and Sadie, his wife, was always kind of smiling, happy, sharing about how these clients made the decision, and it was a good decision for them. You want to have experiences like that in selling. Um, Charlotte Jacobs is another client of mine. When she came to me, she was going through a really hard time. Today, she's several times $1 million generating author and trainer for healing modalities. Some of you may have heard of her. She's here in the Bay Area. The lesson for her, she tripled her income. I promised that she would triple her income in 90 days. And the reason I could really make that promise was because in looking at her markets, it seemed very obvious that she was leaving a lot of things on the side, things that she couldn't really see unless someone else like me took a look at it with her, and asked the right questions. The other thing was she was doing a lot of work that wasn't amounting to a lot of dollars. So we cut down a lot of the senseless projects and tasks that she had on her list. Actually, in 1 week, if I remember right, we really cut it down drastically. It was a huge list, overwhelming to look at. We cut it down to like about 6 or 7 most objectives for the week, which reduced stress and increased focus immediately for her. The greatest relevant breakthrough for a lot of you in sales and marketing, and I'm emphasizing this because I want to really plant a seed of a vision for you, what your life could look like if you applied some of the principles we're going to talk about here. Because without that vision, me sharing all this stuff is going to go into what I call bukaka land. Bukaka is a technical term that means bukaka. It means nonsensical. It means it is something you learn, but you're not necessarily going to practice. My invitation is that there's really a joyful world that you could go through, possibly in the next 6 months to 1 year, a year and a half for a lot of you, if you follow some of the principles I'm going to share, I've been sharing on these calls. The greatest relevant breakthrough for me is my calendar, having the freedom of time. If you can look at this calendar, you'll see that there's a lot of blank space in the calendar. Now, some of this blank space I work in, but it's really what I call my choice time, the time that I have freedom of choice to choose what I want to work on. And you see it's spread out. It's a well spread out calendar. There's no double bookings. And if you look at some of the blocks of time that there are some very clearly demarcated intentions. Not all of them have them written down, but I'm very clear. The ones that I haven't written down, I'm very clear what the intentions are. There are clear intentions for each block of time, what kind of results I want to create, etc. And this creates very meaningful time for me, and it gives me joy. And I haven't had a to-do list now. Oh man, it must be at least 15 years now since I've had a to-do list. I don't have a to-do list. I mean, I might have a short-term to-do list, like for a day at the most. But that list goes away. And that creates a lot more freedom for me, because I don't have to really have the overwhelm of a to-do list. And I hope that makes sense. But more than that, there's really meaningfulness in my time here. I get to enjoy a movie with my wife. I get to spend time with my wife over lunch. I also get to spend time with client appointments that really generate results. So, the greatest relevant breakthrough for me is really the quality of my time. And I'm inviting you to really look at this, because if you improve your sales techniques in a particular way, then, my invitation is to look at how that could really create a world of, you could say, more meaningfulness for you in your time, apart from making the money and, the finances that can feed that kind of lifestyle. So what is your greatest relevant breakthrough? And this is important. And I'm posing this because as a salesperson, you want to be able to pose these kinds of questions for people. Now, of course, this is a very abstract question. I'm not saying it's going to pertain to all your customers, but I'm asking you to look at this from your own life. Because if you understand what's going to be the greatest relevant breakthrough. And it's more motivation for you to really get to the results that you want. Some of you may be struggling with producing results and focus on a day-to-day basis. It may be a function of not really having enough challenging enough for yourself. Some goal or vision that's challenging puts you on the right edge so that you have the right kind of flow in your thinking and your imagination and your work on a day-to-day basis. So a couple of things here I'm going to get into. And what I want to cover here are two things you must do and two things you should avoid in your sales conversations. I'm going to invite you to listen to this newly because some of you may already think you understand this. But like me, I'm even paying attention to this as I'm talking because, like me and like a lot of other people, we tend to get mindless over time as we get good at something. So even if you're good at sales, what I invite you to look at is where is the gap for you? So the first thing that you want to do when it comes to sales conversations, whether they're online or offline, or whether you're doing blogging or projects or a big business, is you want to find out what people want first. Now, this may sound like very silly, but again, when you look at some of your conversations, I invite you to look at conversations you may have had over the week, whether they're personal sales conversations or selling your son or something, some idea that you have, or whether you're selling to a client. You want to notice when you try to convince them or cajole them or manipulate them perhaps in some way without finding out what they really want first. If you don't know what they want, it's kind of hard to lead people or to sell to them. So you want to be kind of like Sherlock Holmes, which is the picture here on the slide, those of you on a computer. He wants, it's an intelligent thing to try and find out what people really want. And you want to listen very keenly because sometimes they don't say much, but it shows up on their face or shows up in their emotions. And so you want to build the art and science of finding out what people really want first. What you don't want to do is assume you know what people already want. And you want to notice and catch yourself when you do so, whether it's online or offline. The second thing you want to do is, and this will save you a lot of time if you do it, you want to find out if they have enough at stake. In other words, how much or how badly do they want what you can offer? Because some people will say, yeah, well, really, I would like to have more money over the next year. But, they're not really willing to pay you money to help you, to help them, sell better, etc. Or, if you provide a service, they may not really want the service that much. And so there are two options at that point. If you discover that, you can either find out what they really want and see if you can address that, or go on to someone else who really wants what you can provide. And you probably save a lot of time doing that. I keep some of my new clients when they come in, they keep telling me, yeah, I keep spinning my wheels, especially if they're doing a premium product or service with people who really don't want my product, but they're just being polite. Or they think they want something and they want to feel good that they think they can afford to buy something like this, but they can't afford it, or they don't really want it that badly. So if people don't really want something that badly, it doesn't mean that you should go away. It just could mean that you may need to ask more questions to discover what is it they really want. Or maybe they're not aware that these challenges that they have are actually much bigger and more compelling that they are aware of. So sometimes people are in denial, and you may have to do a little bit more digging to find out what they really have at stake. And it's the same process again online, whether you're doing blogging or offering products or having landing pages that offer stuff to people. You want to find out really by testing and several different kinds of landing pages, perhaps in different kinds of copy, making sure you do the research up front on your target market so you're addressing exactly what people want, and people want it bad enough that they're willing to write you a check for it or give you a credit card. So the second don't is you don't want to keep selling to someone who has nothing at stake in the game. So if you keep having people who keep delaying decisions or they keep rescheduling appointments with you, you probably want to move on at some point. It's probably a kind thing to do because people like that probably need to figure out something else before they come and work with you. It may not be the right time. So the sooner you find that out, probably the better. Okay. What are some of the advantages that introverts and extroverts may have? And some of you may be introverts, some of you may be extroverts. Quite a large percentage of introverts, based on latest statistics, who are probably really good salespeople in the making. They're not aware of it, and it's the same thing for a lot of extroverts too. So introverts, the advantage you have is that you tend to listen and let people talk. Now, the disadvantage is that you may not be engaging enough people to talk. And so you probably want to find more people to talk and learn how to create people coming to you so you don't necessarily have to reach out to them as much. But when people come to you and they're interested, then you tend to listen more and let people talk, and that's an advantage. And people who are extroverted, I mean, I'm not trying to over categorize here. That most of us probably have a combination of these skills and disadvantages. But you want to really look at the advantages and leverage those more so. So you want to listen and let people talk more. Now, some of you may say, well, a lot of my clients like to talk a lot. And there's an art and science, and this again comes with practice, and it takes quite a lot of distinctions to explain it. But there's an art and science of letting people talk and then gauging where their pain points are as they talk. The beautiful thing about letting people talk is they start feeling more trust with you. Interestingly, as people talk. But where you can control the conversation and not let it get out of hand and too lengthy is when you interrupt them at the right points, when they describe a pain point, and then you can guide them to say more about that pain point or that challenge. And that's an important thing to learn to develop for yourself, both online and offline. Introverts, the other advantage that you have is you probably prepare more, or you like to prepare more, and like to build intrigue. So what you want to learn is actually building intrigue using your preparation skills before the presentation or conversation you have. How you can do this is by preparing the people you're going to meet with on a bio. You want to send them a bio of yourself or your company. You want to share a little bit more about the advantages, the benefits of what you provide as a service or as a product. You want to do a little bit more preparation. And those of you who are not of that ilk, who tend not to prepare, you want to take a page out of this lesson and prepare a little bit more before you go to your presentations. And again, there's an art and science to doing this. And if you understand your market pretty well, you'll know exactly what to prepare people with. And, does this always convert? There's no such thing as 100% conversion all the time of prospects to clients, but will increase your conversions? Probably will. So you want to learn to really take on some preparation, start creating a list of things you need to prepare people for before your sales conversations. Imperative lesson to learn. Advantages that extroverts have is that they tend to like to reach out more to more people and be prepared to fail. So they're less threatened by rejection. I'm not saying they're not at all threatened by it, but they're less threatened by it. And so they tend to reach out more and be prepared to fail. And this is something that introverts or people who tend to be more introverted should learn from extroverts, is that they want to be willing to fail and be okay with getting no's, because the no's will help you identify the things that you need to take out of your presentation or the things that you need to add so that it increases the chances of people saying yes. The only way to find out many times is that you need to do smart experiments and try different things and reach out to more people. The more experiments you do, the smarter you get about testing and evaluating experiments with prospects, the more likely you are to improve over time. So very important to understand that. Extroverts also tend to dig in with questions. They tend to raise their hands in class a little bit more. Not all extroverts again, but the thing about extroverts and introverts is you want to learn how to develop these set of questions. For all my clients, what I try to do, my best to do with them is to identify questions, smart questions, intriguing questions, compelling questions to ask clients, whether it's big deals, small deals, or online, that get them to think about stuff. You've seen some of those questions in the early part of my webinar. Is digging in with the right questions, asking the questions when someone else doesn't want to ask the question. I was in a sales presentation with one of my clients about 3 weeks ago, and I noticed there were actually two competing uh, companies there competing for the business. And the client was going on and on and on, and the other company was not doing anything. And my client, true to her nature, really great watching this, she raised her hand a little shyly and she asked a question that was a little embarrassing to ask, but truthful. And the meeting just went really great after that. The customers really liked the questions, and her company is more likely to get the deal at this point. So you want to learn to really dig in with the questions and make sure that they work for you. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. The other thing I'm going to cover right now is a step-by-step process that you can customize to create more results in your sales. So, if you're offline, you want to set up clear intentions in your conversations. Be sure that the decision maker is present, and you want to prepare the prospect ahead of time, like I said earlier. If you're meeting people offline, these are the things that you want to create very clear intentions. Surprising to me, a lot of people go into meetings without really getting clear on what their intentions are. What are they going to create? Are they going to get a deal today, or what? Is the real intention just to build relationship? Now, if you set unrealistic expectations, then you may put too much stress on yourself and way too high expectations in the meeting, and then usually those meetings don't really go very well. But if you're clear, okay, the intention is just to get to understand the client, build relationship and trust, then okay, you've got a better build that way. If that makes sense. So you want to be really clear about your intentions. Okay. You want to also be sure that the decision maker is present, because the worst thing is, the decision maker is not present, then you're going to probably waste more time trying to communicate the pain points, etc. Again, it's just very, very difficult to do. Offline and online, you want to be clear what your sales funnel is. Now, by this I mean, again, a lot of people will come to you first, whether you come to you on your site or they call you up. What the mistake that a lot of people do is they prematurely ask for a commitment that may be too high for the prospect. So if people come to you the first time, they may not even necessarily want to meet with you. So if you try to press for a meeting, it may be a little too late. I mean, it's a little too late, too early. That's what I meant to say. So you don't want to be premature about asking for business or commitments that may be a little too much for them. The same thing applies to online. So a lot of people offer certain things. Sometimes they offer a free webinar or a free video, but the video is about an hour in length. And so not everybody's necessarily going to want to watch a video that's an hour in length the first time they come and see you. But they may be interested in maybe getting a short free report or a checklist of items that can help them. Or they may be interested in just signing up for your e-newsletter for now. Or they may be interested in meeting with you for 30 minutes or 15 minutes over the phone. And it varies from target market to target market. This is why you got to do the work on the target market and the strategizing to really figure all that out. There are 3 simple questions that I usually ask most people, and for most industries, these work. Not all the time, but these are certainly questions that I ask. And I ask it of the people who I meet with, even if they're not decision makers, because I want everybody who's in the decision-making process or in a company, if they're in a company, to feel very clear that they're being taken care of, that their objectives and challenges are going to be addressed. So the 3 questions are very simple. What are your objectives? What is it that you want to fulfill? Or a simple, easy way to ask that is, what would you like to see happen? And then the next question, what are the things that are stopping you right now in getting there that I can help you with? What are the objectives that I can help you with, that you think I can help you with? What are the challenges that you think I can help you with? And then the last question is, obviously you don't want to ask it the way I frame it here necessarily, but I framed it here to make it very clear for you. Why is this worth the time and money and effort for them to come and pay you, to pay you or spend time with you to help address these objectives and challenges? Are they really worth the time for them? Because if it's not really something that they really want to do right now, it's better to, maybe keep them on your email list for now. And then when they're more ready and more compelled to talk with you, when they have a clear challenge that you can help them with, then that may be a lot easier to do at that point. So these three simple questions could really make a big difference if you learn to craft them. Now, I made them very general because, I just want to make sure everybody understood this. And when we work with clients, we make these very customized as possible. We test out different versions to see which ones really work. And if you work with us over a certain period of time, you get really good at this. You get very clear on what kind of questions to ask and what kind of questions you should not ask and when you should ask them. There's a whole timing to this art and science of asking questions. Sometimes you have to sit and figure out, well, before I ask this question of this particular personality type, what should I ask first? And that kind of dialogue and training comes with time. You actually have to talk it over with someone else so that you can identify how these kind of questions would pertain in your own market and in your own style. This last point in the step-by-step process is to make sure you follow up. Now, you hear it all the time, salespeople, you should follow up. A lot of people make a lot more sales when they follow up. Now, this again may vary from market to market. Some markets, it may not be worth the time to follow up. Your time may be in that one meeting that you have with them. So it may not make sense to follow up. But for a lot of people, probably what you want to do, especially when you're starting out, you want to have a system to make sure you follow up and follow through. So in our clientele, for example, we have a system that reminds people to stay focused on a day-to-day basis, identify their top 4 objectives. One of those objectives may be following up with a certain group of people that you already made connections with. The worst thing is to forget. If you don't follow up within a day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days even, you can forget about the business. It usually goes away. People are so distracted easily that you really have to follow up pretty quickly, for the most part. So what's the plan to build your sales elegantly and sensibly to the next level? So market strategy should lead. By this, I mean you should identify the pain points, your target markets. You should experiment with them, hone it down to your best 3, preferably your best 1 market, if you're starting out especially. You don't have to wait for the market strategy to be perfect. Like I said, done or first draft is better than done. It's better than perfect. Sorry, done is better than perfect. So you just want to have a first draft right now for your market strategy. That includes your target markets, the pain points you're addressing, the compelling solutions that you can provide, the offers you can make, the different kind of packages at different price points that you can offer without giving away everything. You want to smartly identify all that so your thinking becomes clear and you can give very clear choices based on the questions you ask of the people that you sit down with. So you got to really think through your marketing strategy. And if you're not making a lot of sales, but you're a good salesperson, then probably your market strategy is off. And that's where you need the most work. Market strategy should include the following: the right target, the right pain points, the right access. By that, I mean you know how to access your market, either online, offline, magazines, direct mail, phone calls. You want to make sure you get the right access that without spending too much money that blows your bank, gives you a good return on investment. Then you want to design the right systems for your sales funnel so you guide people from not knowing you to building trust to actually working with you. The last point is probably the most significant one, I would say, which is traffic generation. You got to learn how to create systems that are going to generate traffic. This is something that Bill Bellew, my business partner, and I have really brilliant eye on. Bill has done tons of experience in generating traffic. His website gets tons of followers. He gets a lot of business in the right way from all his sites and his forum. But the art and science of creating traffic coming to you, and how we do it is we do it through organic traffic generation. It's what we recommend because it doesn't cost much and it's more sustainable in the long term. By organic, I mean you create good content on your site. You don't have to pay for you don't have to pay for advertising. You create good content which attracts the right crowd of people to you. There's nothing like having people call you up rather than you having to reach out to them. If you reach out to them, you're more likely to get rejections or rejection. Doesn't mean you're going to get rejections all the time. But if people are already coming to you and they know about you and they're interested in talking to you, they're more likely to do business with you. And that's the advantage of doing organic traffic generation, creating good content that attracts people to come to you over time. And so you don't have to sell as hard. A lot of your questions may already be answered about what they're looking for. It may be a lot easier to do business. So, the question you want to pose yourself, are you willing to sell and be happy with little or no stress? And such entrepreneurs tend to be a lot happier and a lot less stressed, including a lot of my clients that I've shown photographs here on the slide here that I have in front of you if you're on the computer. So I'm not exactly sure why a lot of you, well, some of you showed up today, but I know a lot of you showed up for some of the following reasons. And the first is that you're tired of trying different marketing tactics without a clear vision, strategy, and plan. And what you're looking for is really a plan or a system to get you where you need to go. You're tired of being overwhelmed and feeling stuck, perhaps. Well, you want to feel more clear and confident about the steps you're taking daily, weekly, monthly, towards the fulfillment of your dreams and ambitions for you and your family or your community. And deep down in your heart, I know because I've talked to some of you, you know that you have the capability to get things done. And all that may be missing for you is a solid, customized plan with a sensitive but realistic dialogue partner to coach to guide you on your way to success with details. And the most important thing is chunk down steps. In other words, steps that are chunked down for you. When I dialogue with people, I try to chunk down and make things very simple so they can focus on it for the next day or the next 2 weeks, and they can get stuff done. Again, if you're tired of getting overwhelmed, you need somebody like that. Then you're in the right place today. So it is your time, I say, for success in your way, in your style, the results that you want for your time with a plan and system that works. The obvious question is, how do I make all this work so I can get things up and running for myself? And there are two choices that I've seen people deal with at this point. It's the one option is to go through what I call long-term suffering. And most people like to do long-term suffering. It's quite amazing how people really like to suffer a lot in their lives. So long-term suffering, there's overwhelm. There's no complete satisfaction. The inconsistent results and incremental results. What keeps people in long-term suffering is they get short spurts of joy from time to time. From time to time, they get some results that encourage them. But for the most part, they're really in a suffering mode, and they tend to at least complain under their breath. They may not advertise it to a lot of people, but they are in long-term suffering. If you're in long-term suffering, the invitation is to maybe choose the other option, which is long-term joy. Long-term joy, there's clarity on a daily basis, where you build that clarity over time. You build your focus on a daily basis. You create traction on a daily basis, especially with your long-term objectives. In long-term suffering, what people tend to do is they only focus on the short-term stuff, the emails that come in and the knee-jerk reactions they have to do to the emails or the events that occur on a day-to-day basis. But if you want to get to long-term, you have to spend some time every week. Bill and I talk fairly often. We meet every week for about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and we discuss strategy and where we want to take the business in the long term. And it's those kind of conversations that we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that really keep the traction going in the long term. And see, that long-term traction is where you're going to find a lot more long-term joy. And that's what leads to breakthroughs and extraordinary results, the kinds that you shared earlier. My invitations to that world, and so some of you that, you may not be ready for that world, and I understand. Some of you are ready for that world. I'm going to offer something right now that would really be worth it. This offer includes an introduction to a system that could really work for you, a system that's customized to what you need, your circumstances, your target markets, and your desired levels of goals. And what we're offering is a means of closing the gap. And by the gap, I mean the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. We're interested in closing that gap. Bill and I are really committed to helping you close this gap as soon as possible. And the biggest gap could be due to fear. It may be a familiar place that stops you. Where you're stuck making a decision. Is this the right thing to do? Do I need to spend more money? Do I need to spend more time? It may be a familiar place that stops you. It stopped me in the past too, but I've learned that, when that fear comes up, it's really familiar. Just learn to notice it. And I know that on the other side of that is a breakthrough waiting to occur. Breakthroughs are not easy to get to. There's usually some barrier to it. Otherwise, everybody would have breakthroughs and we wouldn't be even having a word called breakthrough. But it may be a familiar place that's called fear that stops you. The only way past that familiar place is to take action. Get the mind thinking, actually experience something so you can make an informed decision. And so what we're offering to you, and it's for today only for those of you who are in this webinar, and for you listening on for the replays, there's a very limited time offer. What we're offering is a free consultation, and it's an hour long over the phone. And in this consultation, what we're going to address are your biggest challenges and roadblocks. We're going to come up with a 12-month plan for you on how to get past these challenges and these roadblocks and head towards the kind of outcomes and objectives you want. And then there's no charge to apply for this session. You have to apply for it. And how you apply for it is you go to www.yourvipss.com. That's yourvipss.com. www.yourvip, very influential person, ss.com. So yourvipss.com. And again, there's no pressure to buy anything. Our intention is really get clarity and for you to have the right direction. And if you're interested, you want to find out more about our programs, we'll spend about 5-10 minutes on that and give you a clear idea of where you can go, the programs. But the intention is to really make sure that you get committed action and urgency on where you want to go. So you want to go to the website and apply today for that for your free consultation or free marketing strategy session. The way you want to go again is yourvipss.com. I'm already filled up for next week, and I believe the following week is also filled up. So we may only be able to do it 2 or 3 weeks out. It's a possibility we may be able to do it 2 weeks out. Now, I'm only sharing this with you because some of you expressed disappointment last time, but we're still doing our best to schedule a lot of you. So be sure to apply as soon as possible to get a scheduled spot for this free session. And the free session will help you, really put together some of the points that we covered today, as well as a lot of the other points I haven't covered today about marketing and other facets of business that you may be encountering. Okay, so again, that's yourvipss.com. That's where you want to go to. I've got a bunch of questions here that I'm going to start answering. I've got these questions from email the last couple of days, so I'll go through them. I may not have time for all of them. For those of you I don't get to your question, I promise I'll do my best to email you if it's a relevant question that I didn't cover on the webinar. Okay, first question here. I'm growing my business right now. I'm at what you typically refer to as the mid-level of business, and I need to go up market. I think what you mean is you want to start up branding. And yeah, you should probably, because it's a fairly complicated question, probably a lot of specifics that I need to understand in your business, but you want to, I think what you're really looking at is up branding your business so you can go to the next level of market. If you want to go up market, you got to make sure that you're hitting the right target markets, and you want to research them a lot more because you don't want to fail at it, because you may have a very limited, smaller market, up market, and you want to make sure that you do it right. So you want to have the right systems in place. What I would recommend is certainly having a conversation. We can delve deeper into the details about that. Next question is stuck at a low six-figure income, and I want to go to a high six-figure income. I think I understand what you're saying. Usually if you go from 100,000 to 250 is usually the next level for a lot of people. It takes rebranding again. You have to look at your target markets. You have to look at your sales funnels. Because if you just keep working the same rate, you're probably burning out. I mean, probably. So you'd have to look at your time, money exchange, make sure you have systems in place or you're hiring the right people. Uh, there are some tricks that you can use to avoid avoidable issues. Um, but I think your question is whether my strategy session will address that, and the answer is yes, it does. So you probably want to apply for the session so we can talk more about it. My business service is in healing modalities. Can you address that on a strategy session? Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of healers that we've worked with. Healers include people who have done Ayurveda, through chiropractic, through acupuncture, etc. Selling books and products online, can I use the same principles? Yes, you can. There are some modifications though, because you're talking about you're talking about scalable books and products, lower price lines, lower profit margins. So you got to talk about bigger scale advertising. But some of the most of the principles I talked about still apply, especially when it comes to selling. Because if you're talking to a publisher or a book agent, you got to learn to sell to them. Believe me, you got to learn to sell to them. Otherwise, and negotiate with them as well. So yeah, I'll be happy to have a conversation with you in our strategy session if that makes sense. But the same principles apply. You got to understand the market. If you're doing the traditional publishing route, you got to understand your publishers and the market of publishers, what their pain points are currently, because the market is definitely changing. So you got to understand a lot of that. Let's see. I'm an introvert. I ask those questions that you pose, but sometimes people are unwilling to answer. Can you share what I could do? Yeah, it could be a function of you not building your market strategy clear enough. So you may be hitting people who really don't have a problem, or they think they have a problem, but they're not willing to spend money on it. So maybe a target marketing strategy that you need to change or shift. You may need to do more preparation, maybe, and qualify your prospects up front. Sometimes people are very enthusiastic about doing business with me, but when I dig in, I find out that they are not really willing to commit that well. Enthusiasm doesn't mean people are necessarily going to do business with you. You may need to qualify them a little bit more. So sometimes less is more. If you have 5 prospects who are really well qualified versus 25 who are not well qualified, you may be wasting a lot of time, you see. So you may need to do more preparation and qualification. If you're doing it through a team of other salespeople, same process. You want to make sure that they understand how to prepare and qualify people, so you don't waste your time. And the other thing about that is you may not be detecting or getting the real thing that's going to drive them to buy from you. There's usually stuff that people don't want to reveal unless they have sufficient trust with you. So what may be missing is some trust, or what may be missing is you're not asking specific enough questions to really get to what people really need. And that may also be a function of your system. So, if you are selling online, you have an online site, it may not be addressing some of the real, more poignant, more relevant, more compelling problems that people have. All right, next question here. ADHD, I'm all over the place. I think I know what you mean. So ADHD, for some of you who don't understand, means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's for people who are very active mentally, but they are so active that they are not very focused. And so can you help me in my organization? Yes, that's one of the things we work on with people in business, is to help them organize better, both their physical space. I mean, we don't do the organization ourselves, but we help you figure out how to design your office. But more importantly, organize your day, organize your systems. Those are way more important, than just organizing your office. But we can help you with all of that. Um, I will think about it a lot. Okay, yeah, I mean, that happens. A lot of people will tell you, well, I need to think about that. Now, sometimes that's okay. I let people think about it all they want, but you want to look at your sales process as well. Sometimes what you may need to do is give a kind of like a limited time discount, so, yeah, you can think about it, but, I can only keep this offer for the next day or the next week. After that, the price goes up, or the bonus that you offer goes away. But again, you got to really look at, if people, a lot of people are saying they need to think about it, then you may need to review this webinar or come and do the strategy session with me. We can probably address it fairly quickly. A lot of times what I do is I look at your conversations and what you typically talk about or say, and within a couple of minutes, I can kind of figure out what is missing in both your process, your systems, as well as your conversations with people. All right, next question. Is a strategy session over the phone? Yes, it is typically, unless you want to come and see me in Santa Cruz. That's fine too. What's the price of your coaching programs? We're actually offering our year-long, our VIP Academy. Great program, and it's producing a lot of results. That one, I think, is the one you're talking about. We're offering it currently at $7,500, but if you come to our strategy session, you get a special discount. Quite a big discount, by the way. You also get some bonuses, and you get an early bird, early start program. So that's how that works. And so come to the strategy session, and we'll talk more, and we'll tell you about the discount. I'm in real estate. That could mean a lot of things. Could be an investor or a realtor or a mortgage broker. But okay, I'm in real estate, and I plan to move up and grow. Can you help me? Yeah, absolutely. We have clients like that. We try to keep them non-compete. So we have some clients in certain areas. So we just, as long as you don't compete with other realtors that we have in our program, then yeah, we'll be happy to talk with you. And we can probably address that if you fill in the strategy form. Be sure to indicate where you're located and what your geographical area of coverage is for your services. I mean, if it's all over the Bay Area, that's fine. Just include that. Can you help me with book sales? Yeah, I think I answered this before. Yeah, I can. The follow-up question is, I have a blog. Can I use the same principles? Yeah, I mean, you may not be selling anything on your blog, but actually you probably are. I mean, you probably are selling something. It may not be monetary exchange, but you're selling something on your blog. So, it's kind of a general question. I can't answer it without specifics, but come up apply for the strategy session at your VIP SS, and I'll be happy to answer your questions as best as I can. Make sure you fill out the information fully on the yourvipss.com site, so I can make an informed decision. And we'll get back to you within 24 business hours or sooner if you pass the application. In other words, you're someone we want to talk to, and you have sufficient information that you're giving us, and it's something that's intriguing for us. We'll be happy to talk to you. So make sure you put enough information on that form so I can make an informed decision. All right, really great. Again, I want to really thank you for the opportunity to make a difference for you today. And I've gotten some positive email responses from those of you, or some of you already, and I thank you for that. And I already see some pretty sure there are strategy sessions coming in already. So thank you for that, and look forward to seeing you again, and have a great day. Remember to go to yourvipss.com and fill out the form there to apply for our session. And I'll talk to you very soon. Take care. Have a great day.